No, are you freaking kidding me?
I was watching my dad on a video on live. He's in Vegas right now, and the video cut out, but they hear my mom scream, and then you could just hear a gunshot. Just trying to see if he's okay or where he's at right now.
Are you able to reach him?
No.
My daughter and my son-in-law were there, and there was a shooting. I'm trying to get information is what I'm trying to do.
I'd like to report gunshots in front of Bellagio.
I think someone's dead. I think someone's dead.
There's a clear video of the guy who pulled out the gun.
See the guy's wife saying, "Oh my God, are you for real?" and to people falling to the floor.
So today we're going to talk about a Manuel Ruiz and a Rodney Findlay. And we will also be talking about Rodney's wife, Tanisha Findlay, who is also known as Bubbly. And we'll get into everybody's AKAs in a little bit. And I'm just going to go and say that these weren't necessarily considered fresh faces when they found themselves as part of the Las Vegas live streamer scene, because both men and Tanisha herself were above 40 years old, which means they both came from a time, before social media, before online beefs, before anonymous keyboard threats, pretty much, right? They were the generation that grew up where if you had a problem with someone, it would play out face to face, right? And they basically took this value, this bravado, whatever you want to call it, they took this into the digital age as well. So when things got heated behind the computer, both sides went outside, which in this case made for probably the worst outcome possible. And in this video, I'm taking you into a deep dive into their world and pretty much how, this in-community conflict ended up with people screaming and running in front of the Bellagio. So stick around a bit, get something to drink, because this story has a lot behind it. It's a lot bigger than you think and a lot wilder than you think. So from this point, I have to take you back to about 2020, around the middle of COVID times, when Manny, known as Sin City Manny, and Finny, who would then be known as Finny the Legend, would start this kind of parasocial relationship, right? And it didn't just pop up overnight. As a matter of fact, it started off pretty positive between the two men, because Sin City Manny's content, which included showing off his basic everyday life, if you were to live it in Las Vegas, this wild Vegas life, pretty much letting the viewers soak up all the chaos and the late night antics that this particular Sin City Manny was getting into, and especially over the weekends when he would go to Fremont Street, which is known as a party street to all the Vegans. That was where, I guess you would say, Sin City Manny would make his bread and butter. And up until the tragedy that we're going to talk about, he had live streamed over 400 times about the nonstop drama that comes from living in Vegas, at least the way Manny did. And in his chat was Finny the Legend, participating and finding pretty much countless hours of entertainment from Sin City Manny and his antics. And the Vegas live streaming community is very small in comparison to other genres. So on any given day, the market for Vegas content like Manny's was about 10,000 viewers. It seemed like Manny in this field was either the biggest or he was doing very well. But out of all the streamers, Finny liked Manny's stream the best, and he himself would become well known in the community for it. But let's just say something happened back in early 2023 that changed this positive viewer/streamer relationship into, I guess you would say, a good-natured rivalry in the beginning, but then slowly morph into some type of resentment, and there it would just snowball out of control. So let's go ahead and meet Sin City Manny, who before this was just Manny Ruiz. So he was born in 1984, and from the little that I could gather about this man, he seemed like the typical kid coming out of Salinas of California. I'm not too sure where that is, but it's up north, somewhere near San Francisco. And according to Reddit, people that claim to have known him say that he was always a ham, always an entertainer growing up. And I found a YouTube channel called Gunner's Collective, and they interviewed a man that says he knew both parties involved in the upcoming tragedy that I'm going to tell you guys about. And this gentleman was also part of the Las Vegas streamers community, he himself covering boxing. So this man goes over meeting Manny, and they both bonded over being from Salinas, California. And he explains that Manny always had these aspirations to be an actor, right? He dreamed of being discovered and working in Hollywood. He also goes on to explain that Manny also wanted to be a rapper, right? Because why not, right? If you wanted to entertain people, you try to look for any avenue to entertain them with. And Manny even made an entire rap album, and he would put it on his YouTube channel, which of course now is debunked, deleted, so we can't get to hear that music, I guess. But I'm thinking we don't want to hear this music. So not to take away from the hustle of this man, he was really putting in some work, but this was all to no avail because, you know, Hollywood never called and his rap career never really took off, right? And, you know, there is a saying, something to the effect of when you let your dreams, no, it was when you lower your dreams to meet reality, right? I think it wasn't dreams, it was expectations, but you get the idea, right? Well, that's what was happening to Manny in his life at the time. And at some point, you kind of have to face the reality that this lane you wanted so badly, you know, it just wasn't your lane, right? And so you go and stay in your lane, especially, you know, at the time in Manny's life, he was pushing 40 years old. He was married. He had children. He had a life. He had a job. But, you know, that itch, it still lingered in his mind that he wants to entertain people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't care if you're like 80 years old, 90 years old, and you finally decide to scratch that itch, turn on the camera and just make YouTube videos. I mean, who's going to hate on that? You're just doing what you want to do, only if you don't hurt anybody by doing it. And so back to Manny. I mean, the man was taking care of in his inner circle, his immediate family. They loved him. But that itch, Manny never gave up on, you know, entertaining the people. And so he started a YouTube channel and started live streaming his life. And guess what? He had the right personality. People found it entertaining. And so the subs started rolling in. And soon he was getting donations and his audience just kept growing. And with that, so did the donations. And it motivated him. Of course it did, right? He was finding success in a field, not necessarily what he planned, but in a field he felt was his lane. And in 2021, Manuel Ruiz, now known as Sin City Manny, decided to take a major leap in his life. I mean, at this age, I think he was about 40 at the time. He quit his job and went to do streaming full time, right? His most popular streams were his weekends on Fremont Street, right? Which, to my understanding, is basically a party street, right? If you've ever been to Fremont Street, yeah, let us know how it is. Well, and hey, let us know if you've ever seen Sin City Manny there, because from accounts, he would pretty much haunt that area during the weekends to do his streams, and to some accounts, he acted like he owned the place at a certain point. And the content for the rest of the week for Manny was just basically him waking up and turning on his live stream and showing them what it's like just to be in Vegas, going to different food spots and slurping and burping, something like that, right? And at the same time, Manny was getting a taste of what he has always wanted, right? An audience to perform in front of. And so, you know, streams will get a little bit dull if you don't spice it up a little bit. And it was around one of the Halloweens that he introduced a character that he called Mannywise, and that is a play on the name Pennywise, right, from the movie It, except this was kind of the Mexican version of Pennywise. This would be Manny's alter clown ego, and, you know, like any of us would have experienced, if you put on a mask, you tend to act a little bit more brash. You tend to act a little bit more different than how you normally would. And it was no different for Manny. When he was Mannywise, he was just a little bit more outrageous. So when he was Mannywise, his streams would be just totally ridiculous, right? And everything he said would just be tongue-in-cheek. He'll just pop up on stream in full clown makeup, cracking jokes, riffing on whatever is trending in the community. Now, because Sin City Manny's channel has been terminated at this point, this is what I've been able to gather about these streams via Reddit, comment sections on other videos. So he'll do these over-the-top skits, so to speak, like pretending to haunt people who don't use the right hashtags. I don't even know what that is supposed to mean, or giving some spooky advice or whatnot, and it's all just for fun, right? But he actually would at times pepper in something very thought-provoking, right? He would actually let out some good points sometimes too, which would endear him more to his audience. Okay, so everything's going great, everything's growing, and so the whole Manny-wise things is just Manny's way of keeping things loose on the stream and making everyone laugh, especially around the Halloween times when he would, bring out Manny-wise even more so than not. Now, I will say this. I assume that from the perspective of onlookers, the content he was creating, how he presented himself, it appeared to be a silly, party streamer that did stupid things for super chats. But for Manny, you got to think about it. This was everything to him. The things that he gave up so that he could do this and finding success, this was the bubble he created. This was his entire world. In this little Vegas community of streamers, he was someone. And at this time, he was respected. And he was looking for his calling this whole time. He wasn't satisfied with the way his life was going, but he found it, right? He found something that he could latch onto, and he was going to make it work no matter what. He even had a spin-off with his wife on another, I think it was on Twitter, called Sin City Family, where I'm assuming, because I didn't go over to that page, is similar content to what he's already doing, except now with his wife and maybe letting them in on his actual family life, right? A behind the scenes kind of thing. So Manny at this point had all his chips on the table to make this work. And it was working. And Manny basically was a one-man show. And somewhere along the way, as with a lot of stories about content creators that find success, he let it get to his head. He developed what is known as main character syndrome, so I read. And he pretty much had to be the focus of all the attention. And unfortunately, like those other content creators, once your audience catches on that you're less than genuine, maybe you're lying to them or whatnot, you're going to lose their support. This effectively will become your downfall. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I too am a content creator myself, and I can say firsthand that when a person puts this much effort into making content, dedicating this much time, they really care about the channel. I care about you guys who watch, take the time to leave me a comment, and really, it comes down to the comment section. Whether or not this channel makes money or not, the only thing keeping some channels going are the people posting love. It's pretty much the love from the people that take the time to comment to them. Hint, hint. Well, that's some terrible eye blinking. And Manny was getting that in droves, and everything was great for Sin City Manny. As you can see, I'm trying to build up, how great everything was, only to tear it down. But this is where his chat started to slowly turn against him. And one of his biggest supporters started clowning him as well, started pouring the fuel on this fire of hate, and that would be Finny the Legend.
So,
Man,
I don't know if Archive's going to address it, but I did get sent this clickbait on Friday that didn't get no views. The man tried to say that he wants somebody to like him so bad. He's putting clickbait. He wants somebody to like you. That's crazy. Nobody likes you, dude. Nobody likes you.
reaching,
That's
huh?
included in there for sure.
So let's go ahead and meet Rodney Finley, or Finny the Legend, to his audience. And we will also be meeting his wife, Tanisha Finley, also known as Bubbly, because that pretty much fit her personality from all accounts. That she was the life of the party wherever she was. People wanted to be around her because she could make you laugh. She could make you feel good. She was an all-around great person to just hang out with. And she was bubbly. And I heard in news reports that they were based in Arizona. A lot of people believe that they were living in Vegas and they were actually, part of the Vegas streaming community, as if they lived there, but they didn't live there. Here's the funny part about this entire story. So Finney, he wasn't looking for any type of YouTube fame or any fame at that. He was just a guy from Arizona. He was married, he was a grandfather, and he was just living a normal life. And then he found Sin City Manny's stream, and he just enjoyed himself. He enjoyed his time there. He enjoyed just being part of this community.
I used to watch Manny way back when he was the helicopter guy. So if you guys been to Vegas, or if you haven't been to Vegas, the helicopter people, when you're walking down the strip, they're the people that asking you, hey, you gonna be in town tomorrow, telling you what they can give you. So they're great manipulators. They're great at talking to people. You got to be able to take rejection. So that's why Manny is good at what he do. So I started watching Manny around, I think that's pandemic time, just to see Vegas from the comfort of my house. I used to watch him way back then, and I stopped around the time when, because a lot of people in the chat were saying when he fired the mods, that's around the time I stopped. But the problem with, and the reason was, is not because he did with the mods, was he created, all right, so right now, if you go look at Sin City Family's chat right now, none of those people chatted. None of those people even knew who Manny was at the time when a lot of these channels that are created now have been started. If Manny was a smart guy, he wouldn't have never turned his back on all those people, because all those people now are his competitors now.
And he and his wife would take trips to Vegas now and again. And for a lot of us, Vegas is a part of us, right? And we feel like we're a part of the Vegas community because of how often some of us go there. I'm not speaking for myself, okay? So getting back to Finney, okay? So at a certain point, Finney found and began watching Sin City Manny's streams, right? And Finney, he became an avid watcher and supporter, sending donations even, now and again for Manny to read and for him to pretty much do, silly things as well. And like I mentioned, over time, it became more of a parasocial relationship, okay? Finney was going on to Manny's streams more to interact with the chat than as to what Manny was actually doing on stream.
Any video, anything dealing with Sin City Family, we're going to discuss it. We're going to have a live stream to discuss it.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, in my compiling videos for this edit, I think we have found the exact moment that Finney became Finney the Legend. And this was the beginning of Finney's streams, making fun of Sin City Manny. Which gives us a glimpse into what Manny's stream actually meant to a lot of the viewers, a lot of the chatters, right? So Finney was watching to make fun of Manny in the chat.
Then they come in and they hear me say, Manny's a punk bitch. He eats ass. He sucks dick. All that shit. And then they figured out, like, dang, I didn't know he did all that. Big dude with a smile on his face. He had a story to tell. So yeah, when they go and click Sin City Family, shout out to you promoting us out there. They gonna find our channel. Because man, you done the tell. Hey, what is that on his elbow? What is that?
What is that, a booger? Like, what the shit is that?
It's a leech.
Look like a mole.
He been picking at it.
Sin City Manny had become what the kids today would call a lol cow. And if you're old like me, you have no idea what a lol cow is, well, that is somebody to be laughed at. Okay, so people were basically going into Sin City Manny's streams to make fun of him, to watch him get himself into these hilarious and ridiculous situations and pretty much just mock him. And sometimes you would actually laugh with him, but most of the time you were laughing at him. And honestly, all of this to Finney was peak comedy. And as witty as Finney was, he would add to the proverbial fire, so to speak. And so he was immersed in this comedy that was Sin City Manny. And maybe Finney was not fully taking into consideration that this was everything to Sin City Manny, because just like I told you before, he gave up a lot to make this thing work, and he was starting to experience the success from it. The chat probably didn't take into consideration how much Manny had invested in these streams or how seriously he actually took it. So Finney continued tossing Manny, these donations during his streams, pushing him to do more and more outrageous things, right? Ramping up the craziness for the chat. And like everything in life, that's probably fun for just a while. But then Finney decided, that he wanted to get in on the streaming action himself. And now Finney already had a channel, and from what I read is basically sports talk. Like, he was just talking about sports, right? Just for shits and giggles, more or less. But because of his growing, notoriety in the chat of Sin City Manny, he decided to pivot his YouTube content directly into just making fun of Manny. I mean, Finney was still a supporter of Manny, but not in the sense as he was before, because now these donations that he would make for Manny to do silly things or just to read on stream, Finney himself would be streaming his reaction to Manny's reaction, fucking some type of Inception type deal going on here. But it worked. People were loving the way Finney was cracking jokes and about whatever Manny was doing. And pretty soon, Finney's streams started picking up steam. And that's where the problem actually lies. He was taking Manny's viewers. I mean, they began drifting over to Finney's streams because they were pretty much getting the same content as they would, on Manny's stream. But now they had Finney's take on everything. And for them, it was peak humor. And from most accounts, right, this guy Finney, the legend, had a sharp tongue and he didn't hold back, making Manny the butt of all the jokes pretty much, and viewers ate it up. And let's just get into the bigger problem here, okay? Manny's donations started to dry up as everybody flocked over to Finney's channel. So basically what is happening here is he's getting his viewers stolen from this specific man who is mocking him and stealing his money. Just hearing that, doesn't that sound brutal? So just imagine how the ego-driven Sin City Manny felt. I want to touch upon something that not a lot of people may think about in regards to Sin City Manny's streams, because it's said that his most popular streams was when he went to Fremont Street, which is a party street, right? And so he doesn't own this street, even though people saying that he acted like he did, but no, he didn't. He didn't control the music that was blaring out of these spots and stuff like that. So all that stuff is copywritten, and who knows what can be shown on screen. Maybe a girl might pop a nipple out, or something like that. What I'm trying to say is his stream was not being monetized. He was solely living off the generosity of his chat, his super chats, his donations. So Manny was solely eating off donations. So we could only imagine the growing pressure and pretty much the disappointment he felt when basically his dreams that he had just accomplished was falling apart right before his eyes. So now you got these two Vegas streamers locked in this full-on rivalry, whether Finney knew it or not. And Finney's star is rising, and he's doing it by making Manny look like a joke, while Manny's losing viewers, losing cash, and not surprisingly, getting more and more bitter at this whole thing. And it's messy, it's dramatic, and let's be real, to propagate hate in this manner, it for both parties, it had to be exhausting. And now we get to the point where things really go off the rails, and this event that we're going to talk about would actually turn this whole situation into this nasty, ugly feud. And this wasn't just a petty internet squabble anymore after this, right? All the characters in this story are over 40 years old, like I told you before, so they don't mind being in your face, whether to talk it out or to walk it out. It's Halloween weekend in 2023 in front of a casino. How long has this cord been loose-ish? I'm not sure where I left off, but I'm gonna have to do this part again. All right, so I'm gonna take you back to Halloween weekend in 2023, and it's in front of a casino. Okay, so this is one of those poker tournament nights, and these are the kind of nights that pulls in not only the locals, but every local clout goblin you could imagine who wants to be seen is going to be there, because they will also get to mingle with, certain celebrities. Okay, so needless to say, the casinos are packed. The neon lights are flashing, and everyone was dressed to the nine. And it was written that the air in that environment was thick with excitement. And of course, this is Vegas. This is glitz. This is glamour. And guess who's pulling up? Another C-list celebrity. It's Sin City Manny and his crew. And they're looking like they own the place. And they're ready to stream, right? The night away, get some super chats or whatnot. But interestingly, this night, Finny and Bubbly show up as well. And so the history between Manny and Finny up until this night was online. I mean, before it was just about, one-sided trash talk. But now here they were in real life. And even more interestingly, it was Finny's wife, Bubbly, that actually started the confrontation. And according to onlookers, she walked straight up to Manny and pretty much stuck a camera in his face. Now, whether she was just video recording or she herself was live streaming is not known, but what is known is that Sin City Manny did not appreciate this. Okay, and he asked her to stop. Okay, he gave her fair warning. Don't record me. Now, that's probably because he's recording himself and he wants to be the only one. What Bubbly did was ignore Manny, and she stuck the camera in his face again. Now, allegedly, Manny pulled out a can of mace. No warning, no hesitation. He sprayed Bubbly right in the face, and Bubbly started screaming, okay, because it hurts. And she's clutching her eyes, stumbling back. Okay, so future monks here in the editing room, and I think this clip needs a little bit more explanation. So the clip that you saw, Manny walking through Fremont Street and seeing Finny. What had happened in that scene was he went up to Finny and slapped him. The person holding the camera was Manny's wife, and her name is Julie. Okay, so she didn't record the actual assault, and security was there in droves and prevented anything from happening that day. But this is at night, and you can see Manny right there. He's dressed as a mariachi Manny-wise, right? And so this was being recorded right after Manny had already pepper sprayed her face, okay? And she wound up throwing a cup. If you don't know that, the black lady there in all black, that is Tanisha, or otherwise known as Bubbly. And you can see Finny there with the white shirt and the black hoodie sticking out, and the guy going in between there with the black hat. That is D-Ware. He's this ex-football player that is good friends with Finny, and he's preventing, this altercation from getting out of hand. So while Finny's back is turned, because he's trying to get at Manny for what he had just done, right? He had pepper sprayed his wife. What's going on behind him was Julie. That's Manny's wife. She's hitting Bubbly with a cane, with a stick of some sort. And so this drives Bubbly insane pretty much. She throws her drink, hits some innocent bystanders, and she goes after Julie. And hopefully this little interjection helps you figure out this chaos a little bit better. People rushed over trying to help her, trying to flush out her eyes with, bottles of water. And then someone started yelling for security, and a few folks tried to get in Manny's face, which almost turned into an entire brawl right then and there. But security managed to push through the crowd and get to it before it could wind up that way, separating people and trying to get things, from getting worse. The scene was depicted as pretty much chaos, right? People shouting, people running, people trying to throw hands. And finally, an ambulance showed up within minutes and helped her right there on the sidewalk. Manny, he was still there, surrounded by his crew, because this wasn't going to stop him from streaming, right? I mean, we've all heard of nuisance streamers before. This is just more content, no matter what. I do believe charges were pressed against Manny in this situation. I'm not completely sure, but hit me in the comment section if you guys know. Was Manny going to get arrested? Was Finney going to retaliate? And of course, nobody really knew at this point, but everybody agreed on one thing, that whatever line there was between these two men now was crossed. Everybody knew that the feud had just gotten uglier, and whatever happened next, it wasn't going to be pretty. But Finley surprised his community, and this would bring even more adoration to this man, and it even brought adoration for Bubbly as well, because he didn't respond with more vitriol or violence. Instead, he brought the whole thing to his followers on his next stream, and he would break down the situation, what happened, and pretty much urging everyone to stay civil. And Finney's refusal to escalate despite what happened to his wife, okay? Despite how personal it had become, it surprised a lot of people and actually deepened the loyalty of his supporters to him. And he even admitted that he had to sit down with Bubbly as grown adults and agreed that it was actually Bubbly that was in the wrong that night.
Originally, everybody want to know, like, how did I even know Manny? Like, why did we cross paths to even get maced? And like I said on the previous video, my wife was all the way wrong. So we ain't gonna keep saying it no more. She was wrong for going up to dude. We land on ours. We take ours over the chin. We was wrong for that.
And I'm telling you, it brought a smile to my face, right? It made me happy. Accountability. It made me respect these two people that I have never met and never will get to meet. But now we get to see a side of Sin City Manny that is pretty much a reflection of what we're going to see in his future actions. And, he definitely should not have maced Bubbly. Now, considering all the things that we know about Manny, what else could you expect from a character like Sin City Manny or Manny-wise? That he's always going to keep something on him, whether it's a weapon or whether it's denial. Because Sin City Manny, on the other hand, kept denying that he did anything wrong, right? He was free of any wrongdoing and kept churning out content, often referencing that feud and defending himself to his dwindling audience. So now we will move on to that fateful night that just happened. So Finney the Legend was live streaming a walk down Las Vegas Strip with his wife Bubbly, and it was supposed to be just another night in Vegas, right? The two of them laughing, talking, the lights in the background. They stopped by the Bellagio, to enjoy the water show. Who doesn't? And throughout all this, they were sharing it with their audience. They were live streaming this at the time, which is a pretty bad idea when you have ops specifically in Vegas, because Sin City Manny, he had been crashing out, whether all day or all week, about this couple. And he was looking for them. He was out there looking for them.
But I went through every fucking casino there is. I heard there's one of my biggest fans here in fucking town. I'm dying to see him. I'm fucking dying to see him. What are we doing? Fuel bar tonight? Is that what we're doing? I'll fucking be there. I'll fucking be there. You better fucking believe it. You come to my city and think I'm not gonna show up? You fucking think I'm not gonna show up? I should have been the first one to be told. Right? Somebody should have sent me my invite. Mr. Marquez. Or wherever you go, I will be there. Oh, man, come on. I have to say hi to my biggest fan.
So on this particular stream, out of nowhere, Sin City Manny appears on the stream, and it looks like he's just somebody else. You wouldn't even be able to pick him out of the crowd. He didn't look suspicious, and he just casually walks by. And this guy is always wearing shades, so you can't see his eyes, but you know his eyes were locked onto Finney. And from the stream, it looked like Finney didn't even notice him. But just moments later, Manny came back into frame as Bubbly was trying to go in between the two men, trying to stop them. They looked like they were having an argument, but I could only hear Bubbly's voice yelling at Manny. And then things just escalated beyond anybody's wildest expectations. And this happened on live stream. Manny pulled out a handgun and fired at least 7 shots in Finney's direction.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So the next thing that, chat would see on the stream was the camera being moved by Bubbly and then the camera being dropped onto the ground along with Bubbly. The people on stream were watching this live, and they watched everything turn chaotic as the people on the street were running and they were screaming, and it just stayed on. And the feed would only cut off when a police officer finally got to the scene and turned it off.
On Sunday, June 8th at approximately 10:40 p.m., officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department who were on patrol in the 3600 block of Las Vegas Boulevard heard gunfire occurring on the west side of the street. The officers immediately ran towards that gunfire, and they found 2 victims who were laying on the sidewalk suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. Our officers rendered medical aid to both victims, but their efforts to save those victims' lives were unsuccessful, and both victims were pronounced deceased at the scene.
So it's a whole new day for me. Just finished editing the video, at least the main parts, and now that I've gotten, the complete idea of this entire story, this is a little bit of time to reflect, right? We always want to have a little takeaway from these stories that could help us in the future if we ever find ourselves in a similar situation, you could say, right? As the saying goes, right? Cool heads prevail. Give yourself time. Sleep it off a bit. I mean, if you have the luxury of time to think about something, use that time, right? We tell our son all the time, don't rush. Use the time that's allotted. You don't get extra points for being fast doing your homework, right? Better right than wrong. And I wish somebody in Manny's circle would have told him that in the midst of that anger that he was feeling, because in the video of him in the car, he was crashing out for about 3 hours live on stream, going from casino to casino looking for these people to prove what? That he's a man, that he will stand up to these people. And I don't know, I would say that I would bet that his inner circle gassed him up a bit, right? And to be honest, his inner circle has a lot to do with his wife, Julie, because we do know that she herself had a lot of hate for the Finleys, right? She didn't like Finney in general, but she especially didn't like Bubbly from that altercation, with the mace or whatnot. And the Finleys, they were bigger people, right? Well, physically, yes, they were bigger people, but they were also bigger people when it came to integrity, right? And they said, okay, we were wrong for that. And that takes a big person to do. But it just feels like Manny and his wife really just didn't know what the high road was, because they knew they were on that strip for a particular reason. And you know what? Almost definitely she knew that her husband had a piece on him, right? And so what they were doing on that strip that day was looking for the Finleys to create trouble. And I want to bring you guys back to a clip that I showed you guys earlier, right? And it's of a person just walking down the strip, seemingly minding their own business. But then the phone flips, right? And you could see clear as day that the person recording or streaming at the time is the Sin City family. So just from this alone, we knew, oh man, Someone's at the door. All right, it was the mailman, and I caught him just in time. So where was I? So the streamer was Sin City Family, and that was Manny's wife. It was Julie who was holding that phone. And when the shots went off, she started screaming and running, right? And cursing at the same time because she knew... Oh, sorry, I had to run back. I'm out of breath. She knew that there was a possibility that Manny would crash out because he had been crashing out all day. Maybe she just doesn't have any power over Manny. You know, that's a possibility given his type of alpha male kind of persona. I just want to say that I do hope that nothing happens to Julie because there are kids involved. I read that Manny and her have kids. I don't know how many. One is too much to lose your parents at once, right? I mean, the Finleys are finding this out the hard way, but we don't need to take away the mother too from the Ruiz side of things. And she's culpable to an extent, but at the same time, you want to say the guy who pulled the trigger is the one that is supposed to be behind bars, and that is what it is right now. So hopefully nothing happens to Julie. I don't want her to be arrested because those kids need their mother. Besides all this beef that they had with the Finleys or whatnot, she showed a different side. But overall, you know, you can't judge people just by that one or two interactions that you know about, you know. I would even say that for Manny. He was probably a good dad as well. But, you know, he let his emotions get the best of him. And he didn't just ruin his own life, right? He ruined the lives of potentially his kids. His wife will be without him. Besides all that, you know, our hearts go out to the Finleys. They had about 4 kids. Their hearts are broken, right? I mean, to lose one parent is hard enough, but to lose both parents in one night over some senseless beef, some senseless online beef, that's just too much to bear. Not to have these, what seemingly are amazing people. They're just fun-loving. They were great parents. Finney, from his own son's words, is a legend to his kids. And that's all we strive for as parents, is to have our kids love us like that. And there's a GoFundMe that they set up to help with, you know, costs like the funerals or whatnot. I'm going to put that in the description below. I will be making my own donations. Hey, do what you can. $1, $2. If 1 million people donated $1, right? And I've just been rambling on. I don't even know if I told you that Manny turned himself in. So, you know, after the shooting, you know, Manny did go on the run, but it didn't last very long. He turned himself into the Henderson Police Department the very following Monday, which would be the 7th, I believe. And this is all recent. This is all the week long. And I'm glad I took my time to actually research this case as much as I could. Not a lot of other channels out there are going to tell you that they were from Arizona. Not a lot of channels are going to tell you that this beef did not stem from copyright issues. As you notice, I didn't touch on the copyright issues that much because this beef, as you can see, was way more than just copyright issues. There's some videos I was looking at, you know, YouTubers' beef goes wrong over copyright issues. It's just dramatization that we don't need. So if anything, you come to my channel, hey, I'm going to fact check things to death and give you as close to what happened as possible. And I'm going to try to give you my takes. And hopefully you guys appreciate that. And I guess now you guys just go protect the ones you love because they can be taken away at any moment, right? And also just don't forget to love the ones that protect you.